Time for a weekly conversation with Kyle Davis, head coach at Florida High School. And, Coach, you are a man on the go. And as a matter of fact, tonight you are literally outside of a restaurant talking to us about football. We appreciate that.
Yeah, no, it's great, man. My wife, Florella played McKenzie today in volleyball, and she wanted to meet me for dinner after they got done. So I did a little laundry and got done and headed up this way. So it's all good for sure.
Well, we won't keep you long then, but we'll talk a little football and then let you enjoy some Mexican. Big win over Kinston. It was a game that you had to win. You did. You do it big, 40-plus points, 2 consecutive Friday nights, or actually, I guess, a Thursday the week prior. But you've got to be pretty pleased with the way your offense, especially well, and you got a goose egg for the defense. So both teams, both sides of the football played well on Friday.
Yeah, Robert, I think we're playing our best football right now. We kind of talked about it after the game. There's no such thing as a perfect game, right? I mean, except maybe a baseball, but I mean, there's nothing perfect. I mean, we had a couple errors, but I mean, it was as close to perfect and flawless as you could play. I mean, we scored on 5 of our 6 drives with the ones in, which, going back to last week, that's like 11 of the last 13. So offense is really, I feel like they're clicking. Defense, I mean, I don't even know if we gave up over 100 yards total offense. Kinston's a really tough football team, and athletically they may not have matched up against us, but man, they normally play you really hard, and our guys got out there, and it was evident pretty early that we were going to be able to kind of do what we needed to do. And I told our guys today, I mean, you don't want to be hot in the beginning of the season and cold as it coming down. You want to be hot as you're approaching an opportunity to get in the playoffs. I mean, that's when you want to be, trending up and getting better. And I think that's where we are right now.
I was thinking about it before we recorded the conversation that your open week is at the end of the year. So it's almost like you don't have an opportunity over the course of the year to kind of stop, take a deep breath, and get ready for either a second half or a last third of the season.
Right.
Do you see that as a disadvantage of not being able to get that break in, or do you prefer it as is where you just continue rolling?
I mean, I think that's a question that you ask it, and you get a different answer at different times, right? I mean, obviously, with the time frame that I came in, I think it'd been nice to have off, the 4th or 3rd week, where we could, be getting our stuff in, kind of evaluate where we're at, go from there. If we're established and been here 5 or 6 years and the systems are known, I think it's great to play all the way through and hope you get that week before the playoffs start to rest up and do the things you need to do. I mean, we've just kind of had to build this thing as we've flown it, from just figuring out personnel. And I'm talking offensive because, like I said, obviously Coach Green does a great job on defense, and our guys, they've been in that system for a long time. But, offensively, there were things that, early on just didn't click, and we had some inexperience at some positions, and we moved some guys around. And so, yeah, I think for that part of it, we would have really liked an open week, earlier in the season. But it is what it is, and I do think that, we are getting better. I think we are better today than we were day one. Our understanding of it, our communication as a team, not just coaches to coaches and players to players, but players to coaches. I mean, we don't have a lot of coaches. We don't have guys in the box. And so getting our guys to communicate with us what they're seeing on the field, that really helps us out. So I think that's starting to take place. And but, yeah, I think we would have liked it, but we're here where we are now. And I think we've done a good job adjusting as the season's gone on.
It's interesting that you bring up the coaches and not having coaches in the box. I really had not thought about the fact that, yeah, there was an adjustment for the players when there's a new system implemented, but there is also an adjustment for your coaches.
Absolutely. I mean, we all see the same thing on a Saturday, right? Watching a football game, we see the same thing, but that doesn't mean that you call it the same thing that I call it, and we might be sitting there talking about the same exact thing, but it sounds like Chinese. And so getting that terminology down, understanding the scheme, seeing how the blocking matches up with the skill play, all that stuff has been, and my guys have done a great job. I mean, they've brought me in since day one and said, Coach, whatever you want us to do, we'll do it. We'll learn it. We'll teach it. And they've done a good job. But it's a learning curve for everybody, when a new coach comes in.
Standouts from the Kinston game, who were they?
Well, I mean, it sounds like a broken record, but I mean, Rashawn Coleman, he had 5 carries for 85 yards, 3 catches for 110 yards. Eli had 3 catches for over 100 yards. Bradley, Norman, and Jay Bradbury both had huge games on defense, along with Eli and Ray Sean. I mean, all of them had double-digit tackles, and I know this sounds crazy, but they had double-digit tackles for loss. I mean, it was like I said, it was a dominating performance. Gates threw the ball well again. I mean, he was 11 for 14, I think 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. I mean, but again, the key to all that is that offensive line has gotten better and better, but 0 sacks in the last 2 games. I mean, that's just kind of where you got to say. And really, if you go back to the McKenzie game, I mean, we've had 2 sacks in 3 games. And the first game of the year, we gave up 7. So, our guys have gotten better up front at protecting. And, like I said, a quarterback's only as good as his line, man. You can't throw on your back. And they've done a good job of keeping him standing up. And he's been able to make some throws to some guys that can make some plays.
The win guarantees a non-losing year for the Wildcats in your first season there, but I know you said last week that really isn't that relevant to you. You want to get into the postseason.
Absolutely. The frustrating thing about our region, man, is that we got 5 teams that are really good. I mean, there's 5 teams in our region that have been ranked at some point in time in this season, and so there's going to be one really good football team that's not going to make the playoffs. And we're going to do everything to make sure it's not us. But I think you can take those 5 teams and put them in at least 2 of the other 3 regions, and they win both of those. You know what I'm saying? That Millry and Sweetwater, Leroy, that's a pretty tough one too. But even with that, it's just 3 that are really tough. I mean, you got 5 really tough football teams here. Our first, I guess you would say 2 challenges. We weren't able to meet them. Like I said, we played well. I felt like obviously the score to Georgiana, I don't think is indicative of what the game was. We ended up losing by a touchdown to McKenzie that, you and I spoke about. We had 3 shots in the red zone that we didn't score on. I think if you give us those same shots this week, we score at least 2. Just by the way our offense is clicking. So, but, you can't cry over spilt milk. We got an opportunity Friday night to beat a region opponent and to continue to kind of jockey for a position if we do that inside of our region. And, it's a crazy thing. We talked about today. There could be 5 teams tied at 5-2 for first place in our region, the way it all could play out. So, I mean, it's a highly competitive region. I tell you one thing, whoever gets out of it is prepared when they get in the playoffs.
Well, Coach, it is a region game this Friday night, but as you know, it is not just an ordinary run-of-the-mill region game. You got Brantley coming into town, and 35 years now it's been since a Florella win over a Brantley Bulldog football team. I have a feeling maybe even in the first 24 to 48 hours after you arrived in Florella, you heard Brantley and October 11th brought up. So how big is this ball game?
I mean, you got to talk about that on different levels, right? I mean, obviously, you're right. I mean, it was like, hey, you beat Brantley, they put a statue up for you, and it was big rivalry for our kids. I think it's a huge rivalry because they play them so many times and so many things, right? I mean, it's competitive in basketball, it's competitive in baseball, it's competitive here. So our guys, cross paths a lot of times. Our community is thirsting for a win over this bunch. But I mean, just at the base root of being a big game. I mean, we kind of talk about it. We've been in the playoffs since starting last week, really. I mean, that's the way we feel. I mean, we've got to now we're not looking at this thing like a David versus Goliath because we feel we're just as good as they are. We feel like our players are just as good as their players. Yeah, they've got some tradition. They've won some championships, and Coach does a great job over there. And Jaden Parks is a great player. I mean, they've got some good kids. Don't get me wrong at all. But I mean, this isn't a situation where we're going to shock the world by winning this football game. I mean, that's not what we think about at all. We think about that we're going to go in here and we're going to play our football game because we're the better team, we feel like, and hopefully we get to prove that and show that. The better team don't always win, but we do feel like that where we're at right now and what we've been doing offensively and defensively and the JR team has and the closeness and the togetherness and the fact that we're just kind of on a good, like I said, upward trend right now. We feel good about the football game.
You're around the players all the time. You're around them every week. Does there seem to be more chatter where Brantley is concerned, or is it just another football game from the squad?
Well, I mean, obviously it's going to be a little bit more chatter just because of who they are, right? But now, like you said, just another football game. We have tried to approach it as, this is another game for us. We have to win this game. Another opponent we got to beat. But don't, I'd be lying if I didn't say that, there's a little bit more of a determination about our guys and what we're trying to do and focus and things of that nature. That was the biggest thing about last week. I really saw our guys focus during the football game, and I just kind of told them, if we can take this focus into Brantley, into Red Level, into Elba, we're going to give ourselves a chance in all three of those football games, and I like the chances of it.
What do you bring into this particular ball game that is any different than games prior? Or, are there new tweaks to the offense specifically for the Bulldogs? Or is it another night for the Florida Wildcats that's like the previous six?
I think you watch film every week and you kind of find a few things. And, if you've been around, me, in my football career, offensively, that every week I'm going to give you a little something off of something that we did the week before, just trying to find an advantage and look for, numbers somewhere. Defensively, I think you're going to see us pretty much, what we've been doing. Like I said, it's hard to change that. That's the guys have been playing hard, and we make a lot of good plays on defense, and it's very high intensity on that side of the football. So I don't think you'll see anything different there. But like I said, you may see a few different tweaks. But I will say this, offensively, the fact that we are understanding it more, the base section of it, it does allow us to venture out a little bit more into the playbook and get deeper into it to be able to kind of open it up a little bit.
Coach, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. Enjoy Monterey's. Number 53 is pretty good. I chowed down on that earlier today. But good luck on Friday. Beat those Bulldogs.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach.